All right. What's up, everybody? Just doing a quick podcast recording here. So I've got Jesse with me from DropInBlog, who some of you may know. That's a cool platform for you to essentially be able to build out your own blog, no matter what your website is. Like however you're hosting kind of your homepage, your primary product page allows you to drop in a really great blog. So that's pretty cool. Give that like a look. Jesse and I were messaging on WhatsApp this morning, and he had asked me for a bit of an update on the new pricing at ZenMaid, which I know quite a few of my entrepreneur friends have been following along with. It's a project that's been going on for like 6 or 8 months. And so, yeah, I essentially just said, Jesse, let's record this conversation and jump on. Here we are.
Let's go, man.
All right. Where do we start?
Well, tell me this. I want to know, like, at the beginning, like, what made you decide to change your pricing, and what were the first steps in the process, like when you just first started thinking about it?
So I'd been aware that we were underpriced for quite some time, that it felt like the value that we were adding and the changes that we had made and the features that we had added, just we weren't essentially being rewarded for those things like financially. And to put this in perspective, we had not significantly changed our prices since 2018. The only change that we had made since 2018, two changes were: one, we introduced a free plan in I believe 2019, maybe 2020. And then we also started charging for SMS at some point, which did bump our revenue like a nice bit. That was, for some people, that was a price hike, but it was entirely optional. It was essentially for one feature. If you want to use this as much as you want to, then it's going to cost like a bit like more money. And so other than that, we haven't charged anything like extra for all of the features that we've added since 2018. And like 2018 is like, I still feel like ZenMaid was like a baby, like as like a product, as like a company. Like we've been doing it for like 4 or 5 years at that point, but 3 of those years it was just me and Arun, right? I didn't know anything, right? Like the amount of value, like not just the features, right? Because I don't expect to be paid for features. I expect that we get compensated for value, and the amount of value that the system is bringing to maid services like now compared to 2018 is just a world of difference. And so that was definitely, like, I think, like, just being honest, that was kind of the emotional kind of like seed of, it's like we're like underappreciated or something like that. But then the other thing that I think is where it began to become sort of like more critical is we just began to realize that we were missing out on opportunities, or missing out on potential, essentially. Like not just like necessarily leaving money on the table, but also it's like, I know that we're trying to make more and more money per customer, but I'm also acutely aware that if ZenMaid overdoes that, then that just opens up a hole in the market for the next ZenMaid to come in to do half the things that we do, but those half of things being important to a subset of users. And so then I began to think, okay, we might need to think about changing our pricing here for a multitude of reasons. And so the variety of reasons were, one is bigger folks. Actually, so here's another one. The other thing is that we started to churn users. Like some of our larger users, we started to churn them, and they were going over to other software that we feel like we're very closely in line with, even if they're choosing them like over us. But like we feel like our value closely aligns with these other softwares, and we were seeing our users make that jump and pay 4 times. And that was when we realized, like, hey, we're way under monetizing here. Doesn't mean that we should be 4 times more, but if they're willing to jump to another software and pay 4 times more, they're willing to pay double to us. And then from there, it's okay, but not everybody is willing to pay double to us. And so to give you and listeners, Josh, more like context here, our previous pricing was either free or paid, and paid was a $49 base and then $9 per cleaner, like per month, right?
Okay.
So
So
no
it's kind of
variety
like a
at all.
seat-based, but in your case, seats are cleaners.
Yes, exactly, right?
Yep.
And the new
Does
price,
the 49 come with any seats at all?
includes
Cleaners?
the owner, just the
Okay,
owner.
so
Yeah.
one, and then $9 per cleaner, and then okay, so then what's the new pricing idea?
New pricing is 3 paid plans with a set base price and a set cleaner price. So it's the same as like the paid plan, but there's now 3 options differentiated by features. So it's feature based and usage based.
Okay.
Or seat based, right?
So you're feature gating the 2 lower plans, obviously, and then so you've created both things instead of having one value metric. Okay.
Exactly. And actually, since I will be publishing this to YouTube, I can just share my screen and show the new pricing, just so so any viewers can actually see it.
And so you kept the free plan the whole time. That was part of this, or where does that go into there?
So essentially the lowest plan here, I'll show this on screen text. So we essentially have made it so there are now 3 paid plans and we removed the free plan. But we made the lowest plan low enough that we feel that it's a completely reasonable thing to ask our free plan users to pay. Of a lot of them will pay $23, $27, maybe $31 a month, and we're helping them to like manage and run their businesses. But we did put a very strict limit on this so that our existing users and folks that are like shouldn't have been using the free plan to begin with. So we have 3 plans now that start at $19 a month, $39 and $49. So those are the base prices. And then per cleaner, the $19 a month, it's $4 per cleaner, $39 a month, it's another $14 a cleaner. And then the highest plan, our Pro Max plan, is $49 plus $24 per cleaner per month. Happens as soon as you go to 4 cleaners, now it goes way up, and like 5 I think is our average right there, and then we're signing up more and more people that might have like 14 total. And so you can see like 14 previously would have paid us, I think, just under $200, just over $200 a month, and you can see that now the choice is between $235 and $385 if they want everything that we have to offer.
I see. Yeah, it'd be nice if is there a reason, I don't know if you're testing this at all, but it would be nice to see the per cleaner rate on each of these as well, kind of like the base and then the per cleaner.
We didn't really want people thinking about it in that way. We don't want, because a lot of people think that they're going to be much bigger than they end up actually being. And so you get a lot of people that look at our price and then will we'll essentially be like, oh, but this isn't going to be affordable when I get to 48 cleaners. And, most people don't get there ever.
It was 100 posts or something like this, and everyone complained, and it's like, this was like a $19 plan or something. I don't remember at the time. And, everyone complained. And it's like, literally, like, most people that sign up for that plan aren't like serious content marketers and like never reach that number. And so like it was that exact same, this psychological, they think they're going to have this like massive content marketing thing and they don't want to be limited by this. And it's like, of course, if like you write more than 100 posts, you're going to be ranking in Google and making a bunch of money, and you're not going to care about going to the next plan, right? But that's not the mindset. So we end up changing that to all unlimited, and to remove that mindset thing, which is kind of like the same idea. So I can relate to that and see how it's interesting dealing with the psychology of what people want versus what they actually want and or they think they want, and this kind of thing. Yeah. So what happened with the free users? So you told the free users, well, I guess this will be the whole thing. So you've decided on this pricing. Did you experiment with anything along the way, or did you just like brainstorm on this, come up with some pricing, and then just go for it? Or was there any testing?
So this is exactly why I needed someone to like interview me about it, that we kind of get into the actual details and that I stick like on topic and everything. So yeah, your initial question was like kind of what started it. And so I was saying like what kind of triggered it, and we went down like a bit of a rabbit hole there. Once we decided that we needed to change the pricing, then we went out and we looked for the best SaaS pricing consultants that were out there. And so we ended up talking to 2 different folks. What I was specifically looking for is like individual ownership, right? Is I didn't want to hire an agency to do this, as I wanted wanted to find someone where it was like, I want one person to own this, who's like the point of contact. They don't have to do everything, but like I want there to be like one person whose head it's on if like this doesn't go right. Otherwise, I just don't think there's enough like accountability. And so yeah, we got it down to two guys. One guy, his name is Bill Wilson, who I'm happy to give a shout out to the three people listening. I'm going to keep increasing that number as we go through the episode. But yeah, happy to give him a shout out to the four people listening. And he seems very, very good, and his team seems very, very good, where they are very expensive, but I felt like talking to him that like working with him was the close thing to like a rock solid like guarantee from the universe that you were gonna get good results. Is like he gave me the feeling if it's like if we can't do it, nobody can, like that like sort of thing. The guy
So
that
at least he's good at marketing. We don't know if he's good at pricing, but we know he's great at marketing.
Yeah, maybe, but this was one where it was like the confidence comes from like that he clearly had like a deep lying like knowledge of what was going on and stuff, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't like
You could feel it.
yeah, exactly, right? Like it was demonstrated through expertise, not through bravado, right? And that I mean, let's put it this way. The call that we had with him was so valuable. Like just essentially the sales call with them was like essentially a masterclass on like what we needed to do. And, like any good, I think kind of like offer, he was just like, cool. So like we can help you to do all of that stuff, or you can like run with it and like, do it as what you want. And so, yeah, we ended up going with that option, but essentially we went with a guy, Jules. I feel bad. He's French and I can't pronounce his last name, nor would I be able to spell it without looking it up. But he's got roastmypricingpage.com, so that makes it easy to find his information. I feel like he's like Bill Wilson, but like 20 years like prior, right? So if like the six people listening want to reach out to him, that would be that would probably be cool for him. And that was an outstanding experience. So essentially, that's what happened early on. So we brought him on, and that was probably like what 6 months ago or something. Like this was a long project in the in the making. For listeners, like for reference, we have I think about 3,000, maybe like 2,500, I guess, like paying users, somewhere in that range, that we were essentially going to be dealing with like grandfathering and had to like take into account and everything. And so I knew that it was something that was going to be touching a lot of stuff that we had to figure out, like the features for the plans, like the different billing system, right? Like there was a bunch of different things. It was going to touch multiple departments, like getting support ready for the announcement, getting sales ready for objections and stuff like that. And so that's why I went outside the company to try to find somebody to come in and to own this. And so Jules had the support of the entire ZenMaid team, but he led the pricing project and essentially sat me and Alex down and were like, this is the information that like I need to know. These are the things we need to talk about. These are the questions that you need to consider, so that as a team we can arrive at these decisions. And he kind of helped us with like with everything. A lot of it came from us though, right? Of like, understanding the customer, like, the ICP on a deep level, and figuring out which features to take away and why, and like, and all of that stuff was like very, very deep work. And so yeah, it was a lot of work, like in the in the making. But that honestly, like that is how we're trying to approach problems now at ZenMaid, is we're trying to find the consultant out there that has solved this internally for like a company, and then has gone out and started doing it like for other companies. Yeah.
But so back into that. So when you worked with these guys and then you created a pricing plan and then you just went for it, or did you actually like experiment like with stuff on your homepage with like signups and like different numbers or anything like that?
The only thing like we spent a ton of time talking through different things, like thinking through it on like a really, really deep level. So there was way less testing than like one would think. We did change everything on the pricing page to reflect the new pricing. I believe we did that for a bit and then just put people into the old pricing, which is cheaper, right? Just to like see what happened. I believe we did that for a very short period, but very quickly we essentially just allowed new users to sign up with the new pricing, and we monitored that to just make sure that that wasn't going to tank signups or anything like that. And so yeah, we can talk about the announcement to everybody and like the outcry, but like for new users it had zero impact, right? Like the number of people signing up was exactly the same, and everyone signing up on the middle plan is paying us more than we were charging like before, and then a bunch of people are voluntarily signing up for the higher plan without thinking about it or complaining about it or saying anything to us. And so by the time we announced to like all of our current users that the pricing was changing, it's like I expected a bit of a shit show, because like new pricing tends to always be, unless you're really generous
nobody
with
likes it. Yeah.
Nobody likes it. Like nobody like enjoys it. But like I was pretty confident from the get go that it's like, okay, like we nailed this even if the current customers don't like it. But yeah, we can talk about that, because like there was a lot of room for improvement in that area.
Yeah. So, okay. So you go through the consultants, you work with the two guys, you come up with the plans that you're going to do. You decide to do the value-based pricing. You did both. So you did feature gating and value-based. So your value metric being the cleaners or seats kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
As well as feature gating. But then do you have any other value metrics, as in, I guess you have the SMS, that's an extra thing. Do you have anything else that was existing or new?
That's the only one that's like charged for that like impacts pricing. The only better value metric than cleaners is appointments, is like the number of appointments. The problem is that most folks that come and look at our website don't know off the top of their head how many appointments they have like month to month. And then also it varies a lot more. So it's just like harder for a brand new user to look at and to know what their price is going to be, which we just decided was like more important, right? I think if we were trying to just extract value out of the people that were already convinced to use us, then like aligning it with appointments would be the most fair in some ways. Like some clients don't like that, right? Like they don't think that we should get compensated like per appointment, so they would argue that like that it's not fair. But like it's fair in terms of like aligning the value with like the time that we save them, right, and the money that they pay us. There's no more direct like link than those two. So
okay, so you have the pricing and you've decided on this, and now you've decided, okay, now we need to figure out how to roll it out. And before you even consider anything with existing customers, you test it on the homepage. Don't really test it, you just put it there, and it doesn't seem to change signups. You let them sign up at the old price for a while, even though it's showing the new price. And
yeah, that was only like maybe a couple of days, but that was just to make sure the sign up rate just didn't tank, right? If nobody clicked through once they saw the new pricing, then it's like we don't even have to make the change to know that we made a mistake, and we go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, you don't have to build all the other stuff. So you do that, you roll out the new pricing for new signups, and then at that point, is there any change in signups, like velocity? Or, I mean, I know
I'd have to recheck, but like essentially in the couple of weeks after, it was like they were close enough that it was like cool. Like it's not one way or the other. Like it doesn't seem to impact the sign up rate.
Yeah, my understanding when we researched a lot of this was, if you have like a sign up rate that's about, ours are kind of similar. Basically, it's like not big enough that you can do like massive testing, right? Because it's like it's too. And so the metric I was giving was like, if you're confident in your pricing, you're confident in the long term plan of the new pricing, as long as like signups don't fall off a cliff, like you're okay. Like you know, and fall off a cliff is going to be, you know, up to you, of course. But like, you know, if you don't see like 30 to 50% drop, like then you know, you might be okay. Like even because, you know, things change week to week, month to month, etc.
Yeah, exactly. If I remember correctly, it was like it was down a little bit and then it was like even up the next week or whatever. And we were just like, okay, clearly this is like exactly the same range, to the point that like I don't care to track this exactly. Like we haven't torpedoed the sign up rate. We're moving forward.
Yep. Okay, so you roll it out for new users. Everything's going fine. And then how long do you think about what you're going to do with existing users.
So one nice thing is this is why we went to the consultants, right? So the consultants, like we're not like consultants. We went to Jules, like specifically. He's who we hired, and so like he was there to like the project was two parts. So we paid him for one, helping us to determine the new pricing, and then two, for being the project manager for rolling it out. Right. So a lot of this stuff I didn't have to consciously think about. He came to me and was like, this is what we need. Right. We jump on a couple of meetings. He gets the answers that he needs. And then he essentially like made sure the team was prepared and like and all of that stuff. That's why it was a really, really like great like experience for us and everything. And so how'd you phrase your question again?
Well, how long did you not do anything else? And then when did you, or what did you start thinking about to do with the existing customers?
So just like the caveat to answering this is that the amount of time that we waited between releasing it to new users and like announcing it to like current users entirely had to do with us being prepared for it and not any sort of like timing thing. It's just like we would have liked to have given it about a month to just make sure that nothing was wrong and that the new billing system was working and just debugging a couple of things. But if I remember correctly, I think it took us closer to 6 or 8 weeks, and that's because we ended up pushing back like maybe 2 times, that it was just like, hey, like this isn't good enough. We need, like, we can't miss on the announcement here. And of course we still missed on the announcement in some ways, but I think it's always going to happen. But we did have like some pushback on it. So yeah, it was probably like 6 to 8 weeks, I think, before we announced. I think we took this pricing live pretty much at the beginning of the year, and we just announced the pricing. I think March 12th was when we announced the pricing.
Okay, so then at this point you've got a cohort of free users, and you've got a cohort of 49 a month plus 9 a month or something. Yeah. Okay. And so what's the plan? How are you dealing with these guys? Besides, we'll get to the messaging and stuff, but what's from your side, what's the raw like plan of what you want to do with these guys?
It's essentially just move them over to the new to the new pricing. I mean, so like I think there's a couple of like considerations here of just like the human side is very much like I'd like to keep people and like kind of grandfather them and like and etc. But the business side, and not even like from like a ruthless of just like collecting more money or anything like that, it was such a pain when we changed pricing in 2018 because we decided to grandfather people for like another year or two, and for that entire year or two we were dealing with 2 billing systems. Every time a bug was reported, it added complexity. When we wanted to make a couple of other changes that just touched the billing system but didn't change anyone's pricing, it became doubly like complex, right? And just like one of the things that like my team was clear about this time, that's like when we switch the billing system, we are switching the billing system, and like there are ways that we can kind of get people close to like their previous pricing, but like we will not support that because like we're not dealing with like with both billing systems. And then when push came to shove, we decided that like as nice as it is that people get grandfathered like pricing, it kind of was starting to feel like a large cohort of that was kind of taking us like for granted. And so at this point we were just kind of like, hey, like we can still give you some sort of grandfathered thing. We can still give you like some sort of temporary discount, but it's like, if you're not willing to pay full price for like the work that we've now spent 12 years like building or whatever, like that's okay. No hard feelings, right? Like we will support you, but we can't support you by providing you like our software. We'll support you in transitioning to somewhere else that better fits your budget. And so yeah, like you know, we've tried to be supportive of everyone like on the way out and stuff, but honestly there's been very little churn. We really have not seen that many people
getting
leave.
into the sticky of it. So you decide you're going to push everyone to the new plans, including the free users, and you basically say, so now, and you're going to do that. So I guess then the decisions are, yeah, are you going to give them any legacy pricing? You've said no. And then are you going to like give them how much time are you going to give them to deal with this news in their brain or whatever before you push them over? And then are you going to offer what kind of discounts? Is it on a per basis or whatever? So
yes, what we did is we offered, so they were given 30 days, right, which is not much like notice, but we were just looking at this, and it was like in part it was Laura Roeder from Meet Edgar and Paper Bell. she said something to me that kind of like reframed this a little bit, where she was just thinking of like, in terms of like goals for the year and everything. She's like, hey, like you're talking about doing like a 6, 9, 12 month like sort of transition
Yep,
period. She's
pretty
like,
normal.
how much is that like costing you? And like, but like the main thing was like, I think she was actually talking about it more in terms of like personnel and in terms of like how fast to make a hire or how fast to like to release somebody. But it was like the same principle kind of like applied here, where it wasn't just about kind of like the money. That makes me sound very like capitalist, but it's more that like right now I've had multiple things that I feel like ZenMaid could be moving forward right now that will like genuinely, we're getting to a point if it's like moving like the industry forward, right? Like we have that many customers that we are starting to make that kind of impact. And I'm like 3, 4, 5 like A players short right now of kind of where I see us being in 12, 18 months or whatever. And
Sure.
like the faster that we can get that money, the faster we can deliver that value to all of our current customers to expand and do all these different things. And like, I think ultimately I just looked at it and was like, this might not be as popular as being as generous with like a 12-month thing and like, and whatever, but it's like push comes to shove. And like, honestly, like the people that are upset about this don't value what we do. And like that's okay, right? If that's entirely like their prerogative to like to do, but I'm just like, hey, like I'm not going to give you the software anymore if you like don't like value it. Like I'd rather just work with people that value it so that we can reinvest and just do this even better and not be like dealing with,
It's
the
also
in-betweens.
a nice place to be where you've matured the product enough where you can kind of say, hey, yeah, we aren't the cheap new guy anymore.
Mhm.
We are providing the real value. So if you're serious about your business, we're serious about our business. And so if that's not you, then like, there's some new guy that vibe coded, Quiet made last weekend, and, instead of saying since 17 or whenever you guys
Yeah.
are started, it says like since Friday,
Yeah.
and
That's 2013 for us. It's 12 years. It's like, it's crazy. The only thing I would adjust for that, like, from what you said is you said, oh, if you're serious about your business, like we're serious about our business. And like what I'm like coaching my team on, if it's like, no, 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 it's like, if you're serious about your maid service, we're serious about your maid service. Right. And like that's really what we're trying to like sell people on. If it's just like, hey, like if you don't want to like pay for help, like that's perfectly fine, like we can help you find someone else that's better. But like, yeah, it's just sort of hitting that like that comfort point of just like there are literally thousands of maid service owners there that are willing to pay us like a respectable amount of money every single month to help their businesses to be more successful and for them to just be more free in their lives. And like, yeah, I'm just getting more kind of like brutal or like extreme about just removing roadblocks to that.
okay, so you decide that you're going to give these guys 30 days, and Laura says you need more money. So you said, I like money. And then you said, yep, we'll just give them 30 days. I'm paraphrasing. And then,
Yeah, I mean, when you phrase it like that, when you put it like that, it
but honestly, I mean, it is like you're going to leave or you're not, right? Like giving them 3 months or 6 months, like it's just going to, if they're going to migrate away, they're going to do it 2 weeks before the deadline anyways. Like there is, so if the deadline is in 4 weeks, they're going to do it in 2 weeks. If the deadline's in 6 months, they're going to do it in 5 months and 2 weeks, right? Like that's kind of the deal. So I get that, and then it's off of your plate and out of your head. You're just like, okay, we moved on, we've done it, we've churned some customers, we've added value for other customers, and now we can hire these new guys, add even more value for the customers. Great, like I get that. Okay, so you decide on 30 days. You decide you're going to push everyone in the new plans. What happens next?
So we announced it on March 12th, and we made a couple mistakes there that like the announcement email that we sent out caused a bit of a panic because it started out by saying today's date, because we were like, as of today, these new plans are available to you. And people read that as like these new plans cost you more, and as of today it costs you more, and that like it had just like changed like that. But if you read the entire email, the email made it very, very clear that it's these plans are now available to you. You will not be charged until like April 9th and after you select like these plans and stuff. But we definitely had like a big blow up. I was definitely having some second thoughts the first like 24 hours of just like, did we make like a massive mistake here? If not with the pricing, but just like with the announcement, and did we completely screw it up and like blah blah blah. And then at like the second day it died down, and then by the third day it was like, okay, like yeah, this wasn't like a massive deal. But I had to jump on calls with a couple of like the industry like influencers and be like, hey, like we didn't just change prices overnight. The other thing that we actually did, so another mistake that we made is well, I wouldn't even say that this is a mistake that we made, like, because in my mind, this worked exactly the way that it was like supposed to. When we released the new plans, and you could see that people like are signing up and choosing between the new plans, and clearly there is no issue with the new plans like whatsoever.
Right.
But when we announced the new plans to all of the current users, there was very specific uproar around essentially everyone was like, you're doubling our prices. And we're like, we're not doubling your prices. We're only doubling your prices if you're going to the Pro Max plan and you're doing like XYZ, right? You have to be above a certain size. And there were a couple of factors, but like there was a decent like percentage of people that were that they felt like they were being forced onto the Pro Max plan. And what we did is we listened to that, but we were like looking out for very specific like details, and we found them in like the messages that it was essentially just a couple of features that were preventing them from being able to use the Pro plan instead. And so we realized like initially we were kind of thinking we want as many people to go to the Pro Max plan. I kind of had to fight my team on this a little bit, where I was like, hey, like them going to the middle plan is actually a big win for us here. And if everyone went to the middle plan, we're still going to have an outstanding like year. We don't need them all to go to the Pro Max plan, so let's not force them there. And so what happened was, from listening to the feedback, we rolled back a couple of specific features only for the old users, right? So that's where they really get the grandfathering, right? And so that's something that like we didn't really announce that. I should have leaned into that a little bit more, but that's where they really get the grandfathering of it's like, hey, we're going to give you guys these 3 features, like these 3 templates that you're used to using, that we're not going to take away from you on the Pro Max plan, but a brand new user has to pay for the Pro Max plan or they don't get those.
I see.
Right?
I see.
So we had
but they're
to, like,
still going to pay for
that.
the middle plan. They're still going to pay for the middle plan.
They will pay for the middle plan, but they will get a couple of the features. And then, of course, like we did that. And then, like, there were quite a few people that were like, oh, what about this thing? And I was like, that's where I draw the line. Like, you're right. Yeah. Like, that is a great feature. You can pay more for it. Like, you can pay more for it. Like, that's the way the world works. You want it, pay more.
One thing that works out well in this is the larger plan. Is it really called the Pro Max plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Starter, Pro, and Pro Max.
I wasn't sure if that was you memeing on yourself or not. Okay. Anyways, so in a way you kind of price anchored yourself, which is good. Like, you know, where if you would have just showed them the Pro plan, then they would have been complaining like, oh, my price is up 50%. And then it's like, they thought it was going double. And then you're like, you know what? We'll give it to you at 1.5 and we'll throw in those couple of features that you really wanted. Now they're happy again. Right. So it's interesting, the psychology of that and how to work. You know, even us as marketers, we get caught in these loops in our heads about the price anchoring and these kind of things. Right. So it's quite fascinating how it works. So that seems like it was a good way to do that. Now, did that create technical debt for you guys as far as like random users with random features, or how'd you?
No, it was literally just I think it might have been like a feature flag or something like that. That was literally just applied to everyone that signed up before this date. So it was running a script one time, and like that was it.
So you just gave it to everybody, not just the people that asked.
No, not just the people that asked. We sent out a message and we're like, hey guys, like, you know, you talked, we listened, we went too far with these plans, and we very publicly like said that we were rolling back like a couple of things, and we got a lot of people that reached out and were like, hey, we were looking at other software already. This makes us feel heard and listened to, so we're gonna stay in everything, and so that probably saved a decent chunk.
So that was a well received kind of email that was your kind of correction on that, and then you were still able to keep the plans. You gave them a couple of features. Good. So that's the regular users. So what's the email and the conversation with the free users like?
It was essentially we sent out an email just saying like, hey, like we're no longer going to be able to support the free plan like effective like April 9th. We've put together a starter plan that you may qualify for if you have less than 40 appointments a month, that we tried to make like a affordable and something that's not going to like kill your budget. And if you're a bit bigger, then just it's like it's time to pay. And yeah, we had a bunch of people, like we had a bunch of folks in the UK that were like up in arms about it, and we're just like, hey buddy, like you're running a cleaning company with 15 cleaners using our software for free. Like I'm sorry, but like this charity isn't going to
Yeah.
continue. Like you have no legs to stand on here to be complaining that I'm now asking you. Like we had one guy that asked to pay $100 a month and had like 50 cleaners or something, like
Yeah.
in ZenMaid, and it's just like, no, dude, like you're paying a bunch of other software companies a bunch of money when like we're the backbone of your business. So like either pay up or go make it work with other companies. Like, yes, yeah, honestly, like with the free users, like the starter plan was designed to continue to help out the people that were on the free plan that the free plan was designed for. And what we realized is there were a bunch of really cheap owners that like never should have qualified for the free plan to begin
I
with. And
see.
to a T, those were the ones who complained, right?
Sure.
Like everyone that was like, hey, like this isn't worth it, I'm not going to pay $25 a month. It's like, cool, no harm, no foul. Like you can go use Google Calendar and it's 100% free. And maybe that like makes sense for you. But like, oh, like to a T, the ones that like complained, it's like they have double-digit cleaners and are using our free software that's like 100 times better than like the alternatives that are free that are out there. And it's just like, hey, like
What percentage of these free users converted? I'm sure a lot of them were like kind of dead users that weren't actually using it, but
honestly, I don't know. I'd have to ask my team to run to run the numbers on that. I'm not sure. I mean, I know like well, yeah. I mean, just like anecdotally, I know like some did. I mean, we only had a couple
sure.
hundred free users. We had less free
Okay.
users than I expected. Like it wasn't a massive amount of free users, and that's because a couple of years ago we started putting in place. It's like the free plan was limited to 3 cleaners, right? So like there wasn't like a huge number. Like yeah, for free plan users weren't like all of our old free trial users.
I remembered when you came up with this idea to start the free plan.
Yeah.
Looking back now, what are your thoughts on the concept of having a free plan? I mean, obviously now you've worked out of it, but like it's kind of the what'd you learn from having a free plan?
Yeah, I reflected on this like a lot. I started therapy recently, and like I haven't talked about this yet, but I probably should. I think the best like conclusion that I can like come to is like only a fucking idiot would offer a free plan to like no, I'm just kidding. I'm not all right. No. I think that it like served its purpose and was like was good was good, like, and was like a good like tool for us that like I definitely feel like for a while there it really did put us on the map. I think that it should be like a tool in every entrepreneur's like strategic kind of like tool belt, but I don't think that there's like a right or wrong answer. And when people say it's like an age-old debate, I'm like, no, it's not. It just depends, right? Like I just think that it depends, and like I think that it served its purpose for us, and now like we don't need a free plan for people to immediately recommend like our brand, right?
So it was
And
kind of a brand play was sort of your thought.
It was definitely like a brand play, because like it was something where yeah, you could get people using it. You had like one of the things that it helped us with, but we started to get tired of, is we had some of the influencers in the industry that were recommending us because we offered the free plan, but we realized that those people that signed up just were not like good, right? It's just like, hey, like we don't want someone who just wants a free software. If they're not willing to pay $20 a month, they're not going to value us in the future.
And they're not serious about their business. So that's what I always ran into with this. We've had free plans in a couple of our products, and
Yeah.
every time it's like these guys just they're not serious about the business. So then like how can you be serious about them? And then they complain a lot, and then whatever,
Yeah.
use up resources, this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
of course the pitch is then you can your software can be more branded, people can be know about it more. In theory, like all these free users, like it gets passed around more, or this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it
so what I would say is, so yeah, the other big thing is, yeah, like I was saying about it being like a tool or like a strategic tool, it's one that you can multiply on. So like one of the things that we did is we ran a lot of paid ads, and being able to run a paid ad of like, this is free maid service software, like, or free software for your maid service,
right.
was really valuable in getting people to click over and to see. And we knew that had a bunch of like downstream kind of like benefits and stuff. I guess actually the one thing in hindsight that I would say that I learned that we fixed, honestly, it's not even we fixed too late. It's just for some reason I decided to allow like existing users to just like get away with this. But like the free plan for us was like, it was too generous. Like I think being able to say that you have a free plan is a lot more valuable than actually offering like a valuable like free plan, at least when it comes to some of the other like benefits, right? Like if you have a really valuable paid plan and you offer some shitty free paid, like, or some shitty like free product or whatever, like if people click over and they still see that they can pay you to solve their problem, like they're still going to consider it if if you present it well. And so I wish that we had been more limited with it, because we just made it too valuable, right? And we thought that we were limiting it with like the features, but it was just like we didn't realize how many people were going to come in and were going to like just find other ways to MacGyver things together in an
Yeah.
effort to just not pay us a penny,
So then you give them 30 days. Are these two separate emails? Did you give the free people like a separate email that talks
Yep.
about them? Okay.
Yep.
But you sent them out roughly the same time, gave them
Yep.
roughly the same 30 days and whatever. And so now that 30 days has happened. We are now past the deadline.
As of yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what's the fallout been like now, besides that first, 48 hours when you changed that plan back and gave those grandfathering features, pushed back from some of these free users that were abusing the system a bit? And what were the other weeks in between? Any other notes?
I want to be careful with what I say here, because for me, no, as the CEO who's like far removed and didn't really have to talk to any customers during like all of their like shouting matches with like the team and everything, I was going to say like no, but I know that the team has been absolutely like slammed in terms of like support and like sales calls and stuff, and been talking to people about like the pricing. So the team's been hard at work to make sure that people are still happy and all that. I am like very proud of the team, and I think that like we've done a good job of really focusing on kind of like the value and like making sure to really help like the users, and also making it like very clear if it's like, hey, like if it's not right for you anymore, because we have some users that have been with us for like 10 or 11 years and they're just like, hey, we don't use any of the features, and like we're just like, hey, like that's not really our fault, like you should use the features, but it's like, hey, if you're not going to and it's not worth the money to you, like that's okay, like we can help you to transition like elsewhere. And so like I think that's like a big kind of company like culture or like value like kind of thing, is like I feel like the way that we treat people on the way out, both as clients of ZenMaid and as like team members of ZenMaid, I think is something that actually like helps to kind of define us and like how we want to like appear in the industry and everything. And so yeah, like there have been some conversations and stuff like that. One thing though is that you'd said earlier in the call that it's like, oh, people will just move 2 weeks before the deadline like anyways. That's actually not true as much when it comes to switching scheduling software. It's more that there is a specific timing to it, and that like what makes that timing right is going to vary from like business to business and like whether they have kids and all these like different things. But it's more something that we realized of like we can't force people on or off like the system. And so like in this case, like I think it would actually be interesting for us to schedule like a half-hour follow-up like episode or whatever about this in maybe 6 or 12 months like time to go over it and to look back on it. Because like right now, most of our users that want to switch somewhere else haven't probably had time to actually switch to the other platform and to cancel us and everything. I'm quite confident that not many are going to, because I'm confident in both the value that we're adding, and also I think people are going to very quickly find that they will not find a better software for less money. They can find a better software for more money, and I would say arguably like only one or two of those is like definitively better, but it will cost you 4 to like 10 times more money.
Sure.
And then you can find multiple like software that are less than ZenMaid and do less than ZenMaid. And like if you want to go with them, like that's fine too. I think it's
Yeah.
just like I think we understand where we sit in the market now, and we're just kind of confident in like who we are for a little bit at least.
But yeah, I guess that's the question mark that we have sitting here still because of the, 30 days being such a short window. Having that short window, it doesn't tell the whole story because these guys are busy. They're running maid businesses, right?
Yep.
They might not have time to find a new solution. So they might want to, they might not have been happy with your pricing change. They might want to churn.
Yeah.
And say, well, I'll pay for a couple of months while we sort this, but whatever. So you could see more churn over the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Or you could have the opposite where it's like, well, I wanted to move, but now actually it was only an extra like $20. So like, how much is my time worth kind of thing, right?
That's what we expect. We've had a nice share of people that have been like, I'm not happy about this, but I'm staying. And it's like, good, right? Good. Like that means that our pricing is good, right? Like it should be a tiny bit like painful, right? Like, like that's valuable, right? Like that's like right on the cusp of where the pricing should be. A little bit more and they flip the table, a little bit less and it like seems like a discount. They don't value it or whatever. And so, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
So that is like the remaining X factor, I guess. But so far, it hasn't been a massive churn. It sounds like. I mean, a lot of conversations with these guys to kind of make sure they get in the right plan and reassure them. Have you had a lot of pushback that you know of people that say, you know what, can I just have 3 months on the old? Can I have 6 months? Can I have begging for that?
Yeah, but then the nice thing is it's just like no, technically that's impossible on April 10th. I'd love to, but technically on April 10th, like we can't support that anymore, right? But that's actually true because we switched the billing system, right?
Yeah,
so what we've done is like we have a couple of discounts that we'd like planned on ahead of time, and like we can extend some discounts for some folks that have been with us like a long time and everything. But I was very clear with the team that like it would take an unbelievable exception for somebody to get anything longer than a 12-month like discount. That is a general rule of thumb, like just like ZenMaid does not discount long term. Like generally it's 6 months, and we're making an exception here during like this that some people we will discount for like for 12 months. But like the nice thing is that even those discounts, they're still paying us more money. Like there's nobody that we're discounting where they're paying us less money, right? And so like that's actually the other interesting thing is, so you've seen what's happened to our revenue, where like for the audience listening, like for revenues we went from about 225,000 a month to 271 or 272,000 like a month, and that doesn't actually take into account that like every single person that moved to the new pricing, we offered a discount on the highest plan. And so in 3 months, a bunch of those guys will like their pricing will jump to the actual like price, and we might see another probably 5-figure bump in MRR probably in 90 days.
Nice. So then, yeah, that'll hopefully balance out some of this delayed churn, I guess, that you might see from some of the people that are planning to move but are busy and this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. And we're talking about big numbers like these days and stuff. So like I fully expect that we'll churn back another like 5 figures of MRR. Like I do think that's coming in the next like 3 to 6 months, but just in the bigger scheme of things, it's actually not that much to ZenMaid anymore, where like, yeah, that's essentially just part of the increase, right? It's better to think about the increase as being 10K less than thinking about it as going up and then contracting like back, right? It's like in reality, everything looks rosier right now than it actually is, because people haven't fully had time to switch off if that's their intention.
But you got to look at the 3-5 year plan here, right?
Yeah.
And kind of where can this pricing take us?
Yeah.
Just to be clear on one other point, you had mentioned, so the only ways that people can pay you more money is by adding more maids or by SMS. Is that correct?
Yeah, or by upgrading if they're not on the highest plan already.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not too complicated. I feel like sometimes people get into trouble with this where it gets a bit like they have too many things, like too many add-ons and this kind of stuff, and it gets a bit complicated. But also that can give you some room for expansion revenue as well. So it's a tricky game to play. So it seems like, yeah, you guys are kind of in the middle with the feature gating as well as the user-based value metrics. So not bad.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And actually, now that I think about it, so actually, yeah, this is something going back to the very first question of what started like the stuff is we also realized that, and this is like I think we've been talking quite a bit about almost like how all of these decisions and all this thinking kind of like impacts our ability like with the like within the actual like industry and stuff, but also just zooming out from like our health just as like a software business, right? Like as like a SaaS business.
Right.
We needed to give ourselves a chance at our expansion revenue essentially driving growth moving forward.
Right.
And so we consciously actually dropped the base price. That before, the base price on the paid plan was 49, and now 49 is the highest base price, and we added two plans that are actually lower than that, but we increased the amount per employee. And so the idea there is that at the same time we've done two things. Is we've made it easier for someone starting out and someone newer into the industry to get started on ZenMaid, but the tax is paid by the people that are now more successful with it as they like move up.
But
and like that might give us a chance at a negative like net retention revenue.
and that's the beauty of using value metrics, right? Because then it's
Yes.
like you grow, we grow. Like it's you know, you're not like mad about paying more because your business is doing well, right? So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. And then also like thinking back to KPIs, it also like would allow us to start thinking like as a company about North Star metrics as like the number of appointments, right? If it's like the last year we helped ZenMaid customers to do, 10 million appointments. This year we're aiming for 100 million appointments. And it's like, I know as the CEO that every 10 million appointments we, grow XYZ or whatever, like it might like be. But yeah, it begins to give us more tangible potential like North Star metrics.
Nice.
That align nicely with the industry. I don't know if we'll actually like use that, but it's an interesting one as it begins to develop.
Yeah, I like it. Well, great, man. It seems like you learned a lot along the way. Sounds like mostly, you made the right choices. Maybe that email, one thing you could consider publishing for founders is the version of the email you sent, and then like the version of the email you wish you would have sent.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple different versions of these around because a lot of people go through this, like, how am I going to break the news about the new pricing,
Yeah.
And there's a few kind of formulas about, showing the value that you've created for them since the last time that there was a price change, et cetera, things like this. But so that might be one thing that you could.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's probably more I do as I say, not as I do. I could share that for sure. We definitely tried to not justify it. We definitely were just like matter of fact about it. Like we missed mostly on like the dates and everything. But yeah, no, you're right. I could share that. That could be valuable. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks for jumping on and doing this with me. Like I feel like this is pretty close to what we actually would have like talked about on WhatsApp and everything. So I think it worked out perfectly. But yeah, for anyone.
Well, I just, I was curious about that. We've been doing some pricing stuff as well. So I like hearing about people in the weeds on it and how, we have, obviously we both have SaaS businesses, but, definitely different problems and different solutions, right? But it's always good to hear how people are attacking the problems and being you directly in the weeds. I think it's good to, get this on tape now because, you'll kind of forget about these details in 6 months, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I appreciate you jumping on and like grilling me about it and everything because it's exactly what I wanted to like to document from it. You're right. I'm gonna completely forget about this.
Well, good. I'll be excited to hear how it goes in the coming months. But it seems like mostly you did it right and it seemed to work. And then I guess you'll also see it like more when you look at what your growth trajectory looks like, what your signups look like over the next year or something, and kind of how that feels. And the other thing that you can really see, which I think will be helpful, is the upgrades, the expansion that you get from revenue. The plan upgrades, which you never had before, besides the free, which I'm just going to guess probably didn't upgrade that much, especially because you said it was too generous. So it'll be interesting to see people jumping from the 3 plans, as they find need for those gated features, or also just the adding more maids as you help them succeed and add value, right? Like that's what we're actually here for, add value and get rewarded.
Yeah, definitely. Before we sign off, I want to share one thing. It might make for like a good YouTube short or something like that. But the big regret that I have with this project, like not even like the biggest like mistake or whatever, but the big regret that I have have is that the team worked so hard on this project. They worked so hard on this project for the past like 6 or 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got to the very, very end, when we were talking about like essentially just like sending out the message to actually let people know, I know that like for me personally, I just gave it a cursory glance when our copywriter sent it over and was just like, yeah, this is good. And it was almost like a, this is good enough, like not to make excuses, but just like my brain was tired. We'd been working on this for 6 or 8 months at this point,
Yep.
that we've been talking about pricing every single week. I'm reading books about it. I'm thinking about it. It was just like, yes, new plans available March 12th. Billing happens like April like 9th. This is what's actually happening. We're matter of fact. This is completely factual, all of this stuff. And it's one of those things where 6 or 8 months of work, not out the door, not down the drain or anything, but like we just missed on just the very last thing where like and like it's more like a I should have known, right? That it's like these messages that are going out, like this is what like the outside world is seeing from the 6 or 8 months. And so for me to just like essentially give it a cursory glance was one that like there's not many things like just in life or like in like ZenMaid or business that I like beat myself up for, mainly because I'm perfect, but also because like, you know, I just like don't find that it's helpful for my like mentality or like or whatever. Like I try to acknowledge my mistakes and move on. This was one that I was like, you really should have known better, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this was completely like unacceptable and should not happen again. Like you can't do all this work and then be lazy about like the one thing that you could have just taken like 20 minutes for instead of like 30 seconds, and it would have made all the difference to this. So like that's like one I'm disappointed in myself.
And I think the lesson there is it's about initiative fatigue, which I think we all get when these things
Yes.
take too long. And, you know, when you're working on this thing for too long and then like you basically get decision fatigue, right? So you're just kind of like, yeah, But yeah, I think the lesson is like, take a pause. And what I've seen sometimes with things where I'm getting burned out on them is like literally just like leaving it for the next day. Like, you know,
Exactly.
you think that you're ready to send it. And it's like, you know what, let me look at it tomorrow, like fresh eyes and cup of coffee. And it's like, so obviously like, what are we doing at line 2 there? Like that shouldn't be there or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever, you know? So I think initiative fatigue is a thing. And that like, you know, we have so many initiatives going and a lot of them take longer than we think. Most of them take longer than we think that they're supposed to take. And, yeah, so maybe that's the lesson, is to kind of try to be aware of this initiative fatigue and try to you know, take a moment and make sure that you get those last final details right, because they do matter. And then you don't want to negate all the work that you've been putting in for these 6 months or whatever the particular initiative was, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was just it felt like we just stumbled like right at the finish line, and it's like we still did great, right? Like it was still a massive like win for the team, for the company. I doubt there's going to be any like ZenMaid users listening to this, but like it will be a win for the users when people see like how we're going to like reinvest this money like into the product and like into the company. It's going to be a big win for like for everyone, but like it certainly didn't feel that way, and that was entirely like on us. So yeah, but you know, you live and you learn, and I definitely feel like it's one where like, you know, a conversation for future chats or whatever is on like standards, and I feel like our standards are just going way up, and that was one where it's like, okay, that's like the last time we make that mistake.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Interesting story. And I think like, yeah, you pulled it off pretty well. I mean, you can't, you know, expect that everything's going to go perfectly, but it seemed good. The numbers, signals, far as churn and revenue, all seem like sort of to be good signals, at least so far. So that's great, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, we're gonna sign off here. Final question for you, Jesse: should I rebrand this podcast to the Amarican Dream?
Definitely.
Okay, because right now it's like surround sound SaaS marketing, and it just doesn't make any sense anymore. Like I think it should be the Amarican Dream.
Surround sound says I do like the actual name, the current name as well, but I've always loved the Amarican Dream. But it's kind of weird because you live in the UK now, so like that. But maybe that's the point, is that the Amarican Dream happens anywhere. It's
All right. I'll give it some thought. All right. Thanks for doing this. I do really appreciate it.
all right. See you, brother.